SOUNDGOODIZER in Ableton, or whatever DAW you're using. I've been trying to record the intro for this video for a really long time, and every time I test my microphone, it works fine, and then I record a take, and then my microphone's broken, and then it starts working again when I test it again. I don't even know what's going on. Anyway, SOUNDGOODIZER in Ableton. We're going to be building SOUNDGOODIZER using just stock effects. It should be simple effects plugins, so even if you're not in Ableton, hopefully you'll have things that do the same stuff. And a very important thing that you're going to want to use is audio effect track. This is what I'm going to be building it in, an audio effect track. The reason I love audio effect tracks is because they can run plugins in parallel, and that's really important for what we're doing today. There are similar things in other DAWs. FL Studio has Patcher. Logic has nothing. This is my biggest problem with Logic, is that it only runs plugins in series. But don't worry. You can either set up your bus routing, so you have like some parallel aux channels, and then group them together and save that as a patch. That can work. Although what I would probably do is use something like Studioverse Audio Effects, which is a Waves plugin. This is free. It's just a plugin rack. You can run plugins in there in parallel. Really what you need to start this is some way of running a plugin chain and some audio effects, some basic audio effects. Right, let's begin. Okay, so when I was making this initially, I had FL Studio and Ableton open at the same time. I would love to do that now, but I think having two doors open and OBS is not something my laptop can handle. So I have a PNG of Maximus for you all to have a look at. Oh yeah, I haven't explained what Maximus is. Right, Maximus is a plugin in FL Studio that is SOUNDGOODIZER, but with all of the little controls for all of the parameters for what SOUNDGOODIZER is doing. Hello, I am the video editor from the future here to tell you that I'm saving you from a really terrible explanation of what Maximus is. I yapped for too long there. SOUNDGOODIZER is a preset of Maximus, okay? That's what you need to know. Alright, let's get back to it. It's just all of the SOUNDGOODIZER stuff, and you can just look at it and figure out what SOUNDGOODIZER's doing. Alright, so let's build this inside an effect track. Alright, let's take a look at Maximus. So, it has a multi-band. It has a multi-band splitter, and it also has compression. It applies this compression curve to each of the frequency bands. That's just multi-band compression, right? But it also has a few other things, has two other things. It has saturation that it applies, and it has stereo width. So making this in an effect track suddenly kind of seems pretty simple. We just need a frequency splitter, compression, saturation, and stereo width. That's only 4 things. This really is honestly probably less complicated than you thought it was going to be. It's less complicated than I thought it was going to be. Okay, so how are we going to do this? I'm going to start with the frequency splitter, and the way I like to do that is with EQ3, or any EQ plugin that can split something into multiple frequency bands. So here, we're going to want 3 separate chains, and all of them are going to have this EQ plugin. So I'm just going to rename them. I'm going to have high. This is where the high frequencies are going to go. Mid, that's for the mid frequencies. And low for the lows. Now, the splitter, how this is going to work, we're going to want to have a 24 dB slope, and the low and high frequencies we're going to copy from Maximus, which I think by default are at 200 hertz and 3 kilohertz. That's 24. And because this is high, I'm going to turn off low and mid. And now I'm going to copy this into each of these. For the mid, I'm going to want just mid, and for low, I'm going to want just low. And now, if you play an audio sample through here, you'll find that the audio effect track isn't really doing much. Because it's literally just splitting apart the frequencies and then putting them back together. But now that we have them split, we can apply separate processing to the high, mid, and low frequency range. Okay, so the next thing that you need in the chain is compression. Now, we've got a slight problem here, because if you take a look at Maximus, it has this compression curve that you can actually go in and edit and make it non-linear, or make it do whatever you want. And there's nothing in Ableton that does that. But what I realized is that for all of the SOUNDGOODIZER settings, the compression is in 2 segments. That usually a compressor curve is gonna be 2 segments. There'll be like a linear line, which is input gain is the same as output gain, and then there'll be like the top bit where it starts reducing the gain. In Maximus, you'll find that sometimes that straight line is actually kind of curved, and the way I've decided to recreate that is to just have 2 compressors for each part of the line. It gets a little bit strange, but it kind of works. It kind of works. So, compressor. I'm on low right now, by the way. This is all just going to get copied over to mid and high later. So, I'm going to turn off the sidechain filter, because Maximus doesn't use a sidechain filter. And I'm going to take another compressor, put that right after it, turn off the sidechain filter again. Okay, now some important things to do is to switch it to peak. Maximus, of course, does in fact let you choose between... Does it? I think it... Yeah, there's a peak RMS switch. All of SOUNDGOODIZER uses peak on everything. As for things like attack and release curves, it's not going to be exactly the same in Ableton's compressor. So what I would do is just put in the attack, and then for the release, because this doesn't have sustain, so I'm just gonna add together release and sustain. That'll be when we go in and set the exact values for SOUNDGOODIZER, which I'm not doing right now. So don't worry about that. I am not explaining this in a very linear way. I hope I'm making sense. The basic way of doing this would be, I'm just gonna start by leaving this flat, which would be a 1-to-1 ratio, and then I'm gonna go in here and just make this infinite. Oh, I forgot something. Okay, I did forget something. What did I forget? I forgot utility. I'm gonna put a utility plugin before the compressor, because then you can just do input gain. Input gain. Actually, you know what I should do? I've had a thought. I am gonna take everything that's in this band and turn it into another audio effect track. And now I can just add the controls that the thing has. This is a good idea. Why didn't I think of that before? Because yeah, I can go in macro 1 and I can call that the pre-gain, which is what we have over here. Then there's post, which is gonna be afterwards in another utility plugin. So from pre to macro 2 and call that post. What other parameters do we have? Attack, release, sustain. So I'm just gonna do... There's also the actual curve of the compressor, which, oh, do I want to control that with a macro? Wait, no, yeah, I'm gonna... This is getting complicated. But I think there is a reasonable way of doing it. So, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a threshold. Boom. I'm also gonna put that on here. So now there's a threshold for both of them. I want this to be like half of the other one. Okay, I'm gonna go into the map. I'm gonna take threshold, compressor threshold. This should be the first one. Yep. I'm gonna turn that down to about, let's go -12. Let's see what that does. So now, yeah. Now we have 2 separate thresholds. Okay. This looks like a very strange thing to do, but there's a reason for it. There is a reason for it, because... Oh, how do I do this? How do I do this? Okay, so... Think about it. Think about it. When you have pre-gain on the... I'm gonna figure this out. I should not have just suddenly decided to do everything differently halfway through filming a video about something that I already knew how to do. I shouldn't have done that, but I am doing that, because I think this is cooler. So I have this. What I want is I want this to kind of act as an expansion curve. It's still a compressor, because it's going from a line like that to a line like this, right? And the way I need it to do that is to just turn up the input gain, add a new threshold, and then curve it off. And that just means like a medium ratio, high knee, high knee, high knee, high knee. Oh, that's it. That's what I want. Look at that. So something like this. So I make a new macro. I call this, what, like pre-curve? So it's like that, and then it turns into this. But I also need it to be louder. What if I just turn up the output? Does that work? Is that a thing you can do? I'm gonna map output to this as well. If you're using a DAW, by the way, if you're using a DAW that has a like plugin, or if you have a plugin that lets you just draw in a compression curve, use that. Or use a wave shaper. A wave shaper is pretty much the same thing as a compressor, just without attack and release. It just acts instantly. And that will also get you a similar result. Oh yeah. Next up, I'm just gonna add ratio for the other compressor. And yeah. Oh, I've made a mistake here. Yeah, what I've done, the output gain shouldn't actually be different, right? It shouldn't be getting louder. The peak shouldn't be getting louder. The quiet bit should be getting louder. It should stay the same. What if I unmap output and I just hit makeup? Yeah, no, that fixes it. Okay, I fixed it. It did it. Okay, what else does Maximus have? It has stereo width and then saturation. This is just the frequency splitter, we already have that. And then here, this is low, mid, high delay, which is look ahead. I'm not gonna be adding look ahead. I don't think it's the most important thing, and I also don't know how to, so let's just not worry about that. Then we have low, mid, high mix. Anyway, everything on to the right of here is like a global master thing, so I'm not gonna be putting that on the individual frequency band. So what we need now is saturation and stereo widening. Stereo widening, that's easy because I already have a utility plugin here. So I can just grab width and be like, boop, and stereo width. There it is, easy. Hell yeah. Saturation. I am gonna use saturator. Okay, I'm gonna put that before the utility. I'm gonna use analog clip. That's the right kind of distortion for this anyway. Now, how do we do this? Maximus has weird saturation settings. It's a threshold and ceiling. Now, what does that mean? What does that mean? Now, ImageLine are a bit vague about what exactly those controls actually do. So the way I'm gonna implement them is just by doing this amount thing. What did I just map that to? Macro 9. Yeah, and then the other one, I'm gonna connect drive and output to the same thing. Let's just call that drive now. And the thing I gotta do with this, I wanted to go from 0 to 36 is probably much. Nah, I'm sure that's fine. And then I want this one to go from 0 to minus 36, so it's like compensating, right? Next thing to do is to just put this in the other frequency bands. Okay, so what we now have is pretty cool because this is Maximus. This is just Maximus, and it's in an Ableton rack. So, we're very close to having SOUNDGOODIZER in Ableton at this point. Although, is there anything else I want to do? I think there is something else I want to do actually. I'm going to add some macros in here because I want to just throw in the frequency splitters. I'm going to map to all siblings. Also this one. Boom. Can switch between slopes and switch between crossover frequencies across everything. Alright, yeah, this is kind of annoying. This is a flaw this has, which is that Maximus is 12 and 24. This is 24 and 48. Good news is, almost everything that we're going to need is 24. There is, in, I think, SOUNDGOODIZER preset C, it uses 12 decibels per octave in one of the frequency split bands, which means this is just not going to sound exactly the same. But it's barely noticeable. It's not a big problem. It's fine. I'm going to collapse EQ3 in all of these. And now, there it is. Frequency splitter. We can go between high, mid, and low. There is one more thing that I want to add, and it's this. It's the LMH mix. Now, the first time I learned about SOUNDGOODIZER, I assumed that the knob you turn when you turn up the sound goodness was just a wet dry knob, but it's not. You can't use a wet dry knob with Maximus because when you do wet dry, what you end up with is two different signals and then they get mixed together. And sometimes that's okay. If your signals are gonna constructively interfere, you're good. But the thing about signals is when they add together, they don't always get louder, because what you want is wet signal plus dry signal equals mix of wet and dry signal, but that's not exactly what happens. And when you have something like a multi-band frequency splitter, the way it splits frequencies is by doing a little phase shift at the cutoff point, and that means when you mix together your wet and dry signals, the phase across the frequency domain is not the same with both. This is just like a really long-winded way of saying that you get phase issues, so don't do a wet dry knob. So the way I'm going to go about doing the LMH mix is, instead of just doing like a master wet dry, I'm going to do a wet dry on each frequency band individually, and then controlling that with a master control. So I'm starting on the low, gonna make a chain, and we go in here, and do a little fade, if I actually know how to do this. Okay, boom, Mac to macro 11, chain selector, beautiful. This isn't, I don't really like the chain selector in Ableton because it's not a perfect wet dry mix, but like it's good enough. Okay, so I'm having problems with Ableton's chain fade thing because it's not a perfect wet dry. And I thought it would make a difference, but it does make a difference when you have like 4 of these. It adds up. So what I've done is I've just put another 2 dryer chains at minus 10 dB, and I've turned these down to minus 3 dB. There's no math behind those numbers, I just had to do it by ear. But what that achieves is, as I move it along, it makes a much more consistent shift from wet to dry, so you don't get a sudden volume increase in the middle, which shouldn't happen in the first place. If these were actually like perfectly straight lines, that wouldn't be happening, but for some reason they're not. I don't know why. I don't know who at Ableton messed that up, but this is my solution. I've put that on, I put these extra chains on all of the racks for high, mid, and low. Hell yeah. And now I just go and I say, where is it? Map to LMH mix. Map to all siblings. So now everything is on this macro here. It's not doing anything because I currently have Maximus just in the default setting. I'm actually gonna hide that from all of these macros because it doesn't matter that it's there. Okay, boom. Now there is one thing missing, which is of course the master effects. As you may very well know, Maximus has another like set of compression, saturation shit on the master. So what I'm gonna do is just copy this audio effect track. I'm gonna turn all of this into another audio effect track, and then I'm gonna paste it just on the end. I'm gonna label these actually. That's master, that's low, mid, high. Low, mid, high. I put master in the middle of low. That's not what I meant to do. Master on the end. Boom. Okay, we're done. We're not done. Are we done? We're not done, are we? Because, why are we not done? We're not done. We're not done because I still need to add some macros here. And the macros I need, I'm gonna put LMH mix on 1, and then don't forget the master, because I also need to put chain selector on 1. Okay? I only want to show that. And this is just your sound good knob. That's for everything. There it is. SOUNDGOODIZER. What we have to do now is just take the parameters from the presets in Maximus and then put them onto this Ableton rack. And then we will have SOUNDGOODIZER. Yippee. Hooray even. Alright, I have just gone through the very long and painful process of copying every parameter from Maximus into this rack. So, hopefully it sounds like SOUNDGOODIZER. Now if you want to have a look at what these parameters are, I recommend just taking some screenshots. So, your frequency splitter, this is low, this is mid, this is high, and then here's the master stuff. Now this is SOUNDGOODIZER on preset A, and this is what that sounds like. I'm gonna play a loop from one of my songs through it. Now I have made all of them into macro variations, which is a slight pain to actually shift through, but there we go. Okay, so now here's B. I think the frequency split is the same. The interesting thing about B is that you'll notice all of my compressors, the ratio is at 1:1. So the compression is doing nothing. The only thing that these frequency bands are doing are changing the post gain. So it's just making it louder. It's slightly different across different frequencies, but yeah. SOUNDGOODIZER B is a loudness knob, although then it does also have a little bit of compression on the master as well. So yeah, this is what that sounds like. It makes it louder. My advice, if you're gonna use SOUNDGOODIZER, is to put a LUFS meter on the end of it and a gain plugin, and turn down the gain plugin until the LUFS meter is the same as it was when SOUNDGOODIZER was turned off. Because otherwise you're just making it louder. What you really want is the change in tone that's making it sound good. Unless it being louder is what's making it sound good. In which case, you don't need this. Okay, here's C. It's slightly different frequency splitter. This is the one that we have a problem with because Ableton's EQ3 doesn't have the same slope, but the difference in sound it makes is like not huge. It's fine. Okay, what's actually going on in C? I've forgotten. It's kind of similar to A. It's just multiband compression, saturation, basically an OTT, and then some compression on the master as well. This is what that sounds like. Pretty cool. A lot of people seem to really like SOUNDGOODIZER C, so that's for you people, I guess. And now here's D. This one's a bit weird because it's not actually split band. So the way I've done that is I've turned off all the compression and saturation on high and low. Everything's going through mid. I've split open the frequency splitter. So no compression or gain, no compression or gain. Compression and gain, very harsh compression, infinite ratio. Yeah, a bit of this, bit of that, making it louder. And then on the master, again, more harsh compression. This is something that I learned about SOUNDGOODIZER today, is A and C are heavy multiband compression, B and D are turning the volume up. Alright, let's hear that. Okay, so, good news, we're done. That's it. That's the whole thing. This is, you have SOUNDGOODIZER now. There it is. It's that. If you don't want to make the whole rack, then it's available on my Patreon for free. Get it. Download it. Link in description. Oh yeah, I have a Patreon now. There's nothing on there other than this, and I haven't actually set up paid memberships yet, so it's not really much of a Patreon. It's just a place you can download SOUNDGOODinator, just for now. But who knows? Maybe one day I will let you give me money on there. Get this for free now. Go put 7 SOUNDGOODinators on your master.